Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlaw Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlaw Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
And it is Access to Democracy, and it is the 15th of March, which is known as the Ides of March. That's when things go wrong, and things certainly have gone wrong today. As a matter of fact, Nancy Minion is with us, and this was supposed to be interview number 3 today, and number 2 is with Representative Lori Halverson and Steve Francisco, who were good enough to switch with us because Nancy has an appointment that she has to get to. And I want to really thank the crew because we had a power outage here, and as I said, it's the Ides of March. So welcome to Things Going Wrong, Access to Democracy. I'm Alan Miller. This is Nancy Minion. Nancy has been very active in dog and cat rescue and saving of animals for several decades. And as a matter of fact, I want to focus on the book that's on the table here. Scott, if you would do a close-up on the book. This is my book, which is close to coming out. It's with the printer right now. This is just a sample copy. Can you close in on it? And if you can. It's My Name Was Toby, and it's about the wonderful dog that we had for 13 years, and we got Toby from Second Chance Animal Rescue.
That's great.
Which you may not have known.
That's great.
And he was just a great companion. And after he died in 2011, I found that he kept a journal. And so I was able to transcribe that journal. And this is the story of his life as he wrote it. And it'll be out and on the shelves in bookstores and Amazon, Barnes & Noble, probably within 2 months, but certainly 3 weeks or so. But this is Second Chance Animal Rescue that you founded, that you are the president of, and
there's Toby.
That's some of what it did, because he was just the most marvelous companion, and he was my constant.
That's
and,
great.
That is an endorsement for Second Chance right there.
Thank you.
Now, Nancy Minion, you've been involved in really animal rescue, dogs and cats, for over 24 years. You started when you were 9. And
thank you.
What got you involved in this?
Well, it was probably about 24 years ago that I was just watching TV one night, and I saw a situation of a dog being beaten deaf and blind, and I just thought, something has to change here. Our laws just aren't strong enough. And just jumped right in, working with some other people to try and strengthen our animal cruelty laws. And I've been doing that since then, working on various laws, and then started Second Chance Animal Rescue with several other women. Let's see, we're going on 17 years now. So we've rescued over 8,800 dogs and cats through our program, Toby being one of them. And that's how I got started, is just kind of like the aha moment. You see something and you have to take action.
And you did take action. And you have been trying for years to get a bill passed, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. And as a matter of fact, Representative John Lesh was supposed to be here with us today. Representative Lesh has been trying to get a bill passed involving puppy mills and things like that since 2007, and I know at your urging, Senator John Marty co-sponsored the same bill in the Senate, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the fact of the matter is that we haven't been able to do it, and the legislatures that we've had in the past have not been receptive to it. We certainly hope that it's going to happen this year. But you have been tenacious. You don't give up.
No, and we won't give up. We're going to keep trying until we get this passed.
Now, you had something to do with the felony animal cruelty law, which has been passed.
Right, that took
which
us...
stops people from really being cruel.
Right, that was back from, just seeing what is going on in Minnesota. No matter what you did to an animal, it was just a misdemeanor. So several of us worked on a felony animal cruelty law to escalate the penalties from misdemeanor to gross misdemeanor to felony, depending on degree of bodily harm. That took about 5 years to get that passed.
And people don't realize, I think, that these puppy mills generate animals under the worst and cruelest conditions, and they sell them for, especially if they are purebred, for tremendous amounts of money. And I have in front of me here an article that's just several weeks ago. A $2,500 puppy was snatched from a pet store. Well, number one, with all the rescues around, I can't understand why anybody would pay for a dog when there are so many wonderful dogs to live with you, to be part of your family and your home. But number two, $2,500 for a puppy, and somebody walked in and just snatched it and ran out. And as far as I know, that person has not been caught.
Yeah, I saw that on TV as well. We get purebreds in our program. We rescue strays out of impound facilities. So it can be a purebred, a mixed breed, a designer puppy. We get them all into our program.
And the reason Representative Lesh is not here today is because the committee is hearing bills, including this bill, so that it can move forward and go to the floor. And he happens to be chair of that civil committee, so that he expressed his regrets and our regrets as well, but we will have him on at a later point. Now, you also had something to do with the dangerous exotic animal law.
Right.
Tell us about that.
In Minnesota, prior to that law getting passed in 2004, you could own a tiger, monkey, bear. You could have it in your house, in your garage, in your backyard. Now with this law, you can't sell tigers, bears, monkeys to citizens. So the people were grandfathered in, like the breeders in Minnesota who breed the tigers and bears and monkeys, they're not allowed to sell to the general public.
And there have been some really unfortunate incidents with exotic animals escaping and doing damage, including physical injury.
Being housed in corn cribs, and this one little boy was left quadriplegic, and so we have that law on the books.
Now, you've been involved with an organization called Speak Up for Cats and Dogs?
Yes, that's the coalition. We're working together with several other animal organizations to move this dog and cat breeder regulation bill forward. So it's a large coalition, and we're working hard, all of us, to get it passed.
Scott, if we can get a close-up of this. This is a clipping of Nancy with the governor talking about the very bill that we're about to discuss here. Speak Up for Cats and Dogs. It's Senate File 36, it's House File 84, and it's being discussed in the legislature today as we sit here and talk. And what it says is regulation needed to protect dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens by requiring Minnesota commercial dog and cat breeders to obtain a license, be inspected, and follow animal procedures, animal care standards. Minnesota, amazingly, has no state law to license, inspect, and regulate these breeders. And that lack of oversight has really caused great harm, not only to the animals, but to consumers and to industry and to the reputation of our state, because Minnesota has become known as a state where anything goes in terms of these breeders, amazingly, as we're so careful about other things that we wouldn't license. And what the bill does, Senate File 34, I think it is?
36.
36, and
House File
House
84.
File 84, and I have it here, is define commercial breeders and set some standards for them. Now, this is something you've been trying to pass, and Representative Lesh has been trying to pass for 6-7 years now.
Yeah, we're in well, it's probably even longer than that since we started the whole process. But the bill started out 18 pages, and in the process of compromise, it's now down to 9 pages, and we'll probably still have more compromising. We have gone through 3 committees already in the House, so the House File 84 has passed out of 3 committees: Civil Law, Public Safety, and Government Operations.
And there was a huge rally at the Capitol in February, the day this picture was taken that I just showed, where hundreds of people showed up in defense of this law.
Right.
However, what amazes me is that there have been many people opposed to this law. And I must say, it's been a conservative right-wing opposition, as they seem to oppose anything. One of the things they said is it will be very costly to the state. However, the law has built-in costs, and breeders have to pay a fee, so that the state will not bear any tremendous costs, because the inspectors who will be doing the inspecting will be covered by the breeder's license. And what it does is stop these breeders from really being cruel, unbelievably cruel. As a matter of fact, we have a series of pictures, and maybe we can bring them back up. We can bring them up now if Edward can do that in the control room. And we'll see the results of some of the cruelty that happens. Okay, describe this one.
That's a dog that was in a breeding barn from a former USDA licensed breeder who stopped breeding, and so my organization went in and got some of the dogs out of there and put them through our program. So that's a dog that we took into our program, and he's never fully recovered. He looks a lot better than that, though. He runs and plays. He's learned how to play with toys, but he's not adoptable.
He was in a dirty facility, really, with feces and everything else in there, to say nothing of the germs that are in there. And that is really frightening. Let's bring up the next picture. Okay.
This is one of the dogs that was seized from a breeder who bred, trained, and boarded hunting dogs. There were some dead dogs in the shed. It was a metal shed with no windows, no ventilation, no lighting, obviously lack of food.
Metal shed, no ventilation, no lighting, no windows, and these animals were kept in there, probably in small cages, if I understand it correctly. And the food is just thrown into them, no sanitary facilities, and then they turn around and sell these dogs for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, so these are the breeding, these are the breeding animals, so nobody sees these. The public will see the puppies, the cute puppies and kittens that come out of these situations, but you don't see the suffering that goes on inside the facilities.
And you can tell from the ribs of that animal that obviously it was not cared for, as well as who knows what diseases it carried. Let's have the next photo up. What have we here?
That's another breeding facility. The adult dogs are kept in runs like that, and you can see a lot of chewing. They don't have anything to do all day, so they chew walls, their buckets. That's how they live 24/7.
And of course, they live in their own excrement also. Bring up the next picture.
That's one of the cats we got out of a shed. There were over 20 in that shed, stacked cage on cage. They were all living in their litter boxes, matted, upper respiratory. The public doesn't see this. They don't see the breeding animals. They just see the cute puppies and kittens that come out of these situations.
Okay, let's have the next photo up.
That's a cat that we got in from another breeder in the Twin Cities. She had 30 in her house, and we had
These are not easy pictures to look at. That cat is missing an eye.
Yeah, we had to have an eye removed because of the neglect. His eye was protruding and he was blind in it, so we had to relieve the pressure and the pain and remove the eye.
Next.
This is a dog. They were, I can't remember how many, 27 plus Shih Tzus in the basement of a woman's home in Minneapolis.
27 Shih Tzus in the basement of this woman's home.
Right.
In a cold and dark basement.
But you don't see those. You see the puppies sold online, newspaper ads. And the only way, and just so you understand, in Minnesota, the only laws we have, it's a complaint-based state. Since we have no licensing, no inspections, no regulation of this industry, the only way that we get these pictures or find out about these animals is because somebody has seen the cruelty, reported it to law enforcement. Law enforcement then has to follow through, then it has to go through the court system. So if you don't see, the breeders with 500, 800, 1,000, dogs in their barns in rural areas, you don't know what's happening.
And somebody that has 27 Shih Tzus in their basement could maintain them and then clean them up, sell them, take them out at night. Neighbors would not necessarily ever know what was going on. In the northern part of the state, where the big puppy mills and cat mills take place, they're on farms, they're in barns, they're secluded, and they are just in the most reprehensible conditions. I cannot describe. We see cruelty to children in the papers every day, but these animals become our best friends and are great companions, and we don't see it, and yet it has existed all this time, and there are people who have opposed legislation which would regulate it. Well, you wonder who the people are who would oppose the regulation that would, I know who the people are, who would, and they're the same people who are trying to take the state back into the middle of the last century. And it's really a great compliment to you that you've had the strength and the fortitude to go on all these years fighting this and really not giving up. And it looks like maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel.
We're hoping.
Maybe these animals this year will get what they deserve, which is the right to live a decent life under decent surroundings. And that these puppy mills, and these people make a fortune. They sell these dogs for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And yet they keep the breeding dogs under reprehensible, awful conditions.
And we do have good breeders in the state, and so this bill would actually help them because they would be licensed and inspected and they would meet all the guidelines under the bill, so they wouldn't have anything to fear.
And they don't have anything to fear. And the good breeders are not opposing this bill, as I understand it. It's the people who have something to hide, who get the politicians, who probably have something to hide also, to oppose the bill.
There's the slippery slope argument from the agriculture industry, saying if we start regulating dog and cat breeders, we're going to be regulating the cows and pigs. There are breeders opposing this, saying they don't want any more regulation.
Well, there are people who oppose any kind of government intrusion, except if it's the kind where they want to intrude in a woman's life, except if if it's the kind that they want to impose their religious beliefs on somebody else. That kind of government intrusion is okay, but government intrusion to take care of really conditions like this that are calling out for help, and animals that are calling out desperately for help. And then people get these dogs. These dogs often are diseased, as I understand it, and have all sorts of problems because of how they were brought up.
Yeah, with the unsanitary conditions in these breeding facilities, you can imagine, you know, what is coming out from the puppies and kittens that are going into our homes. A lot of them have hereditary problems, genetic. If they have worms, you know, upper respiratory parvo. There's just a variety of things that if it was a cleaner environment, we wouldn't have to worry about what's, you know, the public is purchasing.
Do we have any other photos in that list of photos? And if so, Edward, could you bring it up? I don't know if that was the last one or not.
Yeah, I think it was.
Was that the last one?
I have lots and lots of pictures.
You came in with hundreds of pictures, which is really depressing.
And the
even more
situation
so.
isn't changing. It's not getting better. We're just hearing more and more about it because we're hoping that people are reporting it more now. If you see something, you know, report the cruelty or neglect. But with the animals, they can't ask for our help. You know, they're in barns and sheds. We don't know about them.
That's right. And Minnesota is one of the largest states producing puppies and kittens.
Well, we have some of the largest breeders in the United States, housing between 200, 500, 600, 800,000 dogs and puppies in their barns. So we produce a lot, sell over the internet. You know, since the internet came about, it's a very lucrative business for the large commercial breeders. The hobby breeders, you know, they're typically doing it right. They have a small number. They're taking care of the gene pool, you know.
Yeah, this is not to say that there are not many legitimate breeders,
Right.
because there are. And we want to protect them
Right.
as well as the animals themselves. And this is really makes my blood boil as an animal lover. Now, there was an investigation of an outfit called Pick of the Litter in Otter Tail County. Tell us about that.
That one, she was a USDA licensed breeder, and in order to be USDA licensed, you have to sell wholesale, which means selling the puppies or kittens to pet shops. So for all the breeders who sell over the internet, ads in the paper, parking lots, they don't have to be USDA licensed, only if you sell to pet shops. So this breeder was selling all the different avenues, you know, besides pet shops. And she had multiple USDA inspection report violations, but the USDA is not an enforcement agency, they're a regulatory agency. So all these conditions were just overlooked and overlooked, and Minnesota is not allowed to enforce USDA rules or regulations. And that's why we need something in our state.
So she could just get away with it.
Yes.
The violations mount up.
Yep,
And,
and the conditions just keep on and on. So we're trying to get up to speed with the other states. There's approximately 34 other states that already regulate dog and cat breeders: Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska. We're just kind of behind the times here.
And as I say, for Minnesota, that really is pretty frightening.
Yeah.
Now we had a woman by the name of Shelley Lynn Whalen, and she had a commercial puppy mill someplace in I think in Elgin, someplace near Rochester. She had a gross misdemeanor. She had dozens of violations, as I understand it, and she ended up on probation.
That's how pretty much our anti-cruelty statutes work. If we could get something to regulate the industry before it gets to the extent of needing to seize animals, that's what we're trying to pass here. This would be a proactive way to do it, where we'd have the state of Minnesota, the Board of Animal Health, would license and inspect them. So if they're not keeping the animals in humane conditions, they would say, you're not going to get a license by the state of Minnesota. You have to clean up your act, you have to do this, 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 and this, and then we'll license you. If they still can't, then they don't get a license and they can't breed and sell. So we need to get the law passed in order to stop what's happening, the cruelty.
And really what you're fighting is overcrowding, filthy cages, overbred animals, no human contact or socialization with a lot of these animals,
Right.
so that it really leads to inferior animals rather than the pleasurable animals that we should get to enjoy in our homes.
Right. And the puppies and kittens, you want a social puppy and kitten when you purchase them from a breeder. So you want something that's been handled by humans, socialized with other animals, and you're not getting that when they're just in cages waiting to be sold over the internet.
And you don't know about the diseases, the hereditary diseases that they have, as well as what they may be carrying in terms of
Right.
not just fleas and ticks and
Right.
things like that, but what we can't see.
Right.
Well, this bill, as we mentioned, is in the legislature right now, and Nancy Minion has been a champion of it, and actually been pushing for how many years? 24 years?
We're working on animal legislation for 24 years, yeah, various
And,
different things. And this bill has a huge following. We have, like I said, a large coalition working together on this. The public is wonderful. We've got databases of people calling their legislators saying we want this. So we're hoping this is the year. Committee
And-
deadline, as you know, is today.
And we urge people to call your legislatures,
Right.
your legislators, excuse me. The House bill is 84, House File 84. The Senate bill, which is carried by Judge Marty, and they both have the same language, is Senate Bill 36. Senator Marty has been a guest on this program on numerous occasions and is really an upright legislator who really is interested in doing the best for his constituents. I was hoping that Representative Lesh could join us today. He's got a really fantastic background. He's a man who went to visit Iraq when he was in the legislature, and as a result he came back, he joined the National Guard, and he is now a lieutenant leading an infantry platoon, and we're going to get to talk to him about that hopefully over the summer. But again, Nancy, I want to thank you so much for coming in here.
Thank you.
Dogs and cats want to thank you for coming in here. Dogs like Toby
Toby,
want to
yes.
thank you for coming in here.
I can't wait
And-
for the book to come out.
Pardon?
I can't wait for the book to come out.
Well, the book will be out in a few weeks. We have this boutique printing, but it will be available. And again, Second Chance Animal Rescue, for those of you who want a great companion in a foster home where it's being well cared for and just waiting for you to come and adopt him. Give him love, give her love, and you'll get it back tenfold. Access to Democracy for a Second Chance Animal Rescue, and stick with us.